All right, hello everybody. This is a test, and I just want to see if this thing is actually working first. So what I'm going to do is go to my channel and check out my studio to make sure this thing is actually working. And what I wanted to do is just start getting back on videos again and do a lot more of this. And it looks like I do have a live video going on right now. It says live now. That's great. I'm happy to hear that because, it's been such a long time and I keep saying that, well, the environment isn't good and all this kind of stuff, but still sometimes try to do this when I feel like it's the right time to do it. And sometimes these things just keep coming up and stopping me all the time. As you know, some of you know a lot about that. So we're back on today, and I wanted to do kind of like just general dreams in general here, starting with some recent ones that I've had and just talk about all kinds of stuff. Funny because the last video I did, all of a sudden, two people emailed me out of the blue, and I've been away from interpreting dreams for quite a while, like a few months. It just kind of backed off, and I needed a break big time. I really needed a break. I figure after 10 and a half years of doing this is the 11th year coming up as of this month, the 11th year of my blog. I've had, okay, so you can see on my main page, 4,300 emails. And that was the last I counted a few months ago. And kind of slowed down quite a bit, but most of those 4,300 emails are people asking me to interpret dreams. And so obviously that's a big part of what has brought people to me because, dream interpreting it takes time to learn. It's like learning a foreign language. And a lot of people don't really know how to do that. I didn't either. I started learning back in 2011 when I came back from Iraq in the Air Force, and I went looking for books in Christian bookstores, nowhere else, how to do Bible-based dream interpreting. And so that's when I got started back then. And it was a pretty steep uphill learning curve. I did have a basic ability that God showed me, but I had to build on that with a lot of study. In the Bible, it talks about study to show thyself approved. In any area where God gives you a calling, you got to do work. You got to work it out. Um, you working out something new with your faith, something new God has called you to. And I've had a number of those, definitely back in the beginning. And so that's just one little possibility of a dream we might get. So that's how it started. And I've been doing this, of course, quite a bit ever since. It was after 4 years of studying dreams that God pushed me to put a page on my vlog site, which used to be chrismichaels.com. I don't use that anymore. I switched it last year, 2025. It's been almost a full year now since I switched it to supernatural-science.com. So I don't know if anyone owns chrismichaels.com anymore. It's not me. And if someone does own it, probably has very different content than what I had on there. So don't use that anymore. Use supernatural-science.com. And as you can see in the bottom of my cover image here that I've used for this broadcast, anytime I use live, I might use that one. So that's what I use now. If you go on that right now, you can see the website is the same one I've had before, but it's just that a different URL domain address there. So as I said last time, I'm back up to speed on that. I had to renew the plan. A website domain address doesn't cost very much. It can cost $13 to $20 per year, but the plan that you need, like for WordPress, is about $100 a year. And if you don't have that, then you reduce a lot of functionality, and it's not that good. So it took me a while to get, been living off almost nothing for the last 11 years now. So, $100 for some people is like no big deal, but for me, it's like everything. So my website was back to the free version since I think November. And just now I had someone sent me the money to update it. And it was primarily for one purpose of that, which I'm working on that part. But let's just say that I'm back up to speed now for the next year. And I did have dreams recently showing all the stuff I've been waiting for, like even 2 dreams in one night. Okay, if you have a dream about tractors and harvesting and it's a sunny day and they're just harvesting everywhere, that means you're about to get something big, a big harvest coming in, and definitely I've been waiting for that for a long time. I also had another dream on the same night, which was unusual because it happened about 10 p.m. I dozed off watching something, and I don't usually get dreams early in the night like that, but usually when I do, it's a big deal. And this one was related to that. It showed a big tan colored envelope, business envelope from a bank actually I don't use right now. I did in the past, and it showed a big. It was something about a big pay statement. It was big. It was tan colored. I didn't know what to do with the color tan. I looked that one up, and tan is just generally speaking, it's an earth tone. It gives you tan. Really, okay. The meaning of that color has to do with earth tones and giving you a feeling of comfort and security. If you think about it, a lot of houses have those kind of earth tones in them, either on the inside. So that's what the color tan can represent, tone, something that makes you feel comfortable and secure and all that. And so if you attach that to the meaning of the dream, then it goes along with that, and it indicates that you are getting something, say a pay statement, and from a bank that I don't even have. So it means something that I don't currently have myself coming from another source, a pay statement. And if you've been living off nothing for as long as I have, because God wouldn't let me have a job. It was part of the deal. It wouldn't allow me to have a job at all. No regular source of income at all. So basically, everyone has to provide whatever I have has to be provided by other people, and that tell you that can put you in some uncomfortable, unpleasant situations. But that's just how it's been. But if you have a calling like I do, then you've got to go through that. You've got to have that, and that's what my whole Supernatural Entrepreneur series is about. The whole process God put me through, and the reasons why. It's all in there. I'm up to episode 90 right now, as of the 2nd of February 2026. So all the reasons why are in there, and you don't see people. Most churches don't teach this. It's what I call the ancient training program. It's a wilderness training program, where God works on all kinds of aspects of your character, just like he did with Joseph. You know, Joseph was in prison for years, and God put him through that because he needed to be developed in certain ways that he didn't know anything about. And it would, if you stay in that process and you obey God and stay in that, instead of, I could have gone out and gone to get a job, and I had dreams showing me not to do that. In fact, one of those very prominent dreams I put in my 50 plus common dreams book, where God was showing me that not to go back and have another job like I used to in the past, using my former professional skills, told me not to do that. Instead, he showed me what to do instead. And he showed me symbolically using a TV broadcast that was up on a wall in one of those old kind of jobs that I used to have. And I was on the phone with a guy named Frank, and it's in the book. You got to get the 50 plus common dreams book. I think I'm going to make an episode in the Supernatural Entrepreneur series about that. I've really been feeling I need to do that. The guy's name is Frank, and I interpreted what the meaning of the name was in there, and the fact that he was a car salesman at the time, and he was on the phone with me asking these questions like, Chris, why are you doing this? Why are you back in this job? Why don't you, isn't there something else you should be doing with your life? And so he was asking me these questions, and it was like he kept asking me in the dream. And so that was God's way of saying, no, do not go back to your previous career. And what I was supposed to do instead was, there was a TV up on the wall in this office area, and it was a weather forecast. And I was speaking what was on the weather forecast. Now, a TV can represent getting visions or prophetic insight from God. And I was speaking what was on that TV screen, which, like I said, can be receiving something from God, visions, prophetic insight. And I was telling that to the people in the office. And one of the people in the office said, yeah, listen to what Chris is saying. So that's when I first knew I had a prophetic calling. And I had other dreams showing me, instead of doing normal jobs, do what prophets do. And at the time, I was like, what do prophets do? I was going back through the Old Testament, trying to figure out, what does a prophet do? It took a long time to realize that a prophet does a lot of praying, a lot of spending time with God, so that he can get the inspiration to do the things that God is calling him to do. That's his assignment. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, you had to go through go back and look at what Elijah did. Well, we don't have a lot of details about that. What did Elisha do? We don't have a lot of details, but there are in this modern life. It doesn't fit with that at all. Um, By the way, I'm getting a lot of connections and not connections here on this little thing I'm using, this app I'm using. So I don't know how this is going to come out. Hopefully, it looks like it's only interrupting for a short time. The internet service where I'm at is kind of not the best. It's not the best at all. So it might be chopping up things. I hope it doesn't. I hope it is also saving this thing so I can re-upload it later without any interruptions. So I'm just kind of watching these little notifications pop up here. Anyway, okay, so um, all that to try to say that was a dream I had several years ago, back in the beginning of my 11-year process. Yeah, about where I'm going with my calling, the invention, all that stuff I call mega prophecy. I'm still using that. I have a page on my supernatural science website called Mega Prophecy, and that just gives the introduction. And then I think it leads to the supernatural science series that I've been doing, and also uh, the book, the ebook by that same name, but also the original one I did called Supernatural Science of Reaching Your God-Given Purpose. Okay, so lots of stuff. God gave me this assignment here on this website to tell my testimony. Because why? Because it's going to be very big when the invention comes out. People are going to want to know, how did you get this invention? I didn't go to school for it. I had some basic engineering at the Air Force Academy way back 30 plus years ago. So I had as a basic starting point there, but I didn't even get a degree in engineering. I thought I was going to, but I didn't, for a lot of reasons. And so, uh, but the point is, I had to have this testimony out there to show that, yes, despite the fact that I had 40 plus years at the time, churches that did not believe in the supernatural, that was garbage. That was wrong. The stuff I learned in those churches was useless, basically. When God pushed me out of my career, I realized I had no faith at all. I had learned absolutely nothing of any usefulness in all those years. And that's when God started to show me, you spent your years in all these churches and learned almost basically nothing. I never got beyond the baby level stage. And that was, I started in a Catholic church when I grew up. I switched to the mainstream, the mainstream evangelical churches, the big ones, and even a few Baptist churches here and there. And God's showing me, you learn absolutely nothing of any usefulness beyond the level of a spiritual baby, basically a 3-year-old. And that's how I spent my whole life. So it was a steep uphill learning curve. I went to great lengths to tell how hard it was for me to cross over being a Western-minded, Western-programmed, college-educated person that believed only in what he could see with his eyes. I talked about the Doctor Strange, mindset of, the first Doctor Strange movie, not the second one. Forget that one. The first one. That was a great parallel to how it was for me. And so that's how it started. But I kind of already introduced this stuff. I want to get past that. I want to tell you about some more recent dreams. Now you can go back and read all that stuff that I've been writing about. I also have audiobooks now through 11 Reader. And one of those is free. The Supernatural Entrepreneur Series is free. The other two are the regular ebook prices, but one of them right now is about half price. The 50 plus dream, 50 plus common dreams. That's about half price right now. And so go on there. You got to get an account, get the app, and add the book to your library. Unless you buy it, then that's part of the process. But the free one is you have to add that to your library. I do get paid from 11 Reader, a small amount for people who read the first couple of chapters, at least on that first few chapters. But go through the whole thing. Volume 2 of that is coming out when I get to somewhere around episode 110. I'm at 90 right now. It won't take that long. And volume 2 of that ebook will be coming out. It's all the recent episodes. The first 55 was volume 1. Volume 2 will be the next 55 episodes approximately. And I'm going to continue doing that for a long time. Most likely that's what God showed me in a dream. Okay, so recent dreams. If you are in any way interested in cryptocurrency and all that kind of stuff in the market, I had a dream last night about that. It kind of took me by surprise because I wasn't really thinking that hard about it. I finally do have some money in XRP. I do. I got it in the last 2 weeks. Someone sent me the money for it and I put it in. And so now I'm watching it. Of course, I actually did a really good job entering at the price I wanted to. I bought 3 different times within a few days of each other. And I used two things. I used all the technical trading knowledge I got from professional. I spent thousands of dollars to learn technical trading 10 to 15 years ago. And I did a really good job using that and all the character development because I had to learn how to take the emotion and this all this fear and greed um, that I used to have a big problem with. I learned so much about technical trading, but I had a hard time putting it into practice because I had my mindset was totally screwed up. I inherited that from mostly one side of the family. And I'm not going to get too much into that because it's not important for right now. But I do talk about that in the Supernatural Entrepreneur series. Um, and so I had to go through a long process. God got me out of that. Of course, I didn't have any money. I had to use all of it up and I didn't have anything. So God put me through a process of developing the character traits I needed to be, well, basically an extremely big tech entrepreneur with an invention and to handle massive amounts of money. So I had to go through the character development process for that. In all of that, I also learned how to deal with stock trading and cryptocurrency trading. So a couple of weeks ago, I got a chance to put that into practice when the money was sent to me specifically for buying XRP. And I did, I used it. And it came out very well. I got I made 3 different trades and it was exactly where I wanted it to be. And of course, since then it's dropped. Not that much, dropped about 30 cents from the 1.9, 1.90-ish level to now it's about $1.62. So the dream last night kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't expect it. And what it showed me was I was watching, it didn't show whether it was a stock or a crypto, but because I've been following crypto exclusively lately, I figured, well, it's about probably mostly about crypto because I'm not really planning to do much with stocks. I have had dreams about trading options on the stock market, options, not just buying the stock, because I learned how to trade options a long time ago. And I really put a lot of time into that. And I learned how to trade options. Very interesting, but you really got to know what you're doing because you can lose massive amounts of money in a short time if you don't go through the process of learning. And I had training from professionals I signed up for and spent thousands of dollars. So I'm not ready for that yet, but when the time comes, I'm sure I will because I had dreams about it. But for now, I'm just watching crypto, specifically XRP, not the other ones. There's other ones on my watch list, but I'm not really following them. I will say that XRP sometimes follows the big overall market with Bitcoin. Say if Bitcoin drops, XRP may drop also. If it's noticeable, if like it's a big drop, a lot of the other cryptos will come down with it. Or if it goes up, a lot of them, okay, it's like a wave. A lot of cryptos rise and fall on the same wave. So if you see something big like Bitcoin rising a lot or falling a lot of times you see the other ones go right up or down with it. So that's just something to watch out for. So I'm still getting to my dream, a long introduction just to get to the dream last night. It was pretty short. And what I saw was a chart of, I'll just say it was XRP. It didn't say that it was, but that's what I've been following. So we're just going to say, and you can apply it to that. Either way, you can apply it to that. I saw that stock chart kind of going like it normally does. But then all of a sudden I saw this big, I think it dropped first, a big drop. And then it came back up again, but it went so fast you could actually watch the thing moving way down and then it came way back up again. And it was moving so fast that I couldn't make a trade one way or the other because I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready, like watching at the moment, ready to put the money in or to sell. And it went up and down a lot, several times it went up and down. And literally, it was this fast. I saw up and down. This is how fast the chart was moving. And it was big moves up and down, but it stayed in a range. It stayed in a price range. And while it was doing that, the whole time I'm thinking, wow, this is moving so fast. I can't get in this. I can't get in this fast enough. But that was the point. The point was God was emphasizing big moves, fast moves up and down, but inside of a range, a defined price range. And the point of the dream was not that I wouldn't be able to get in. No, be prepared ahead of time, follow the chart, and look at the top and bottom levels. Shadow. Sorry. Look at the top and bottom price range. And when it gets down towards the bottom, now here's the big question. Where's the bottom? Well, you have to know, you have to really follow the charts, and you have to know something about technical trading to know where the bottom might be. Might be. Again, I thought the bottom was back when I bought it in the between 188 to 192-ish. I thought that was the bottom. And well, it's down to 162 now. So the question is, okay, in technical trading, you just have to base your estimate, your analysis off of previous highs and lows. And there's certain chart patterns, which I can't get into now. That's way too technical. But you have to know something about technical trading to know where the top and bottom might be. It's might. The chart can go against you. It can defy what you think is a top or a bottom, or the behavior. It can defy that. And then you have to reset in your mind and say, okay, based on that, where is this going? And you have to make an educated guess. It's an educated guess. That's what it is. And if it goes against you, then you have to have a strategy already ready to say, am I going to stay in, or am I going to, if it goes below a certain level, am I going to get out? So you have to have that programmed in ahead in your mind. You have to decide that ahead of time. Otherwise, you're going to lose massive amounts of money. How do I know? Because when I first learned how to trade options, I lost massive amounts of money because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the character development, and I didn't have the experience to be able to do that. So it was kind of all over the place. But since then, like, it's been 15 years now, approximately, since I started learning that. And so now I have the experience and the character development. So I have a good sense of when to do that. But back then I used to watch these guys. They made tons of money doing this stuff, and they would put out their newsletters. You had to subscribe to them, pay a couple $100 or whatever to subscribe to them per year. And I would follow all them. And I was like, how do these people know that? They just knew. Well, when you study long enough and you have the character development, you get to that point where you just know. And so I've learned how to just know what to do. So I made those 3 trades a couple weeks ago, and it was perfect. And then the market dropped. Okay. But the point is, in my dream, the chart moving up and down really fast in a range, the point that God was trying to show me there was follow the chart, use your technical skills, and know when to get in at the bottom and sell at the top. Now, you have to know where the bottom and top is. Again, whole other story. But the point he was trying to make was keep making trades, get in at the bottom, and get out of the top. Don't just wait for it to shoot to the moon. No, that's not the point. The point is not to buy and then wait for it to go sky high. No, the point is to make money knowing when to buy at the bottom and when to sell at the top, and keep doing it. By the way, on Coinbase, the fees are really low. When I did this back then, I hadn't used any of this stuff in such a long time. I thought the fees were going to be high. It was like 0.6% to buy XRP. So if you bought $100 of XRP, it only cost you 60 cents to make that trade. If you bought $150, it would cost you 98 cents or something, 90 cents to make the trade. I was surprised how low it was. I really thought it would be higher, because I think way back when I bought crypto in the beginning 10 years ago, it was higher. I think it was higher. I was really surprised how low it is. So that's one thing you got to watch out. If you make too many trades, you can eat up your money in trading fees. But if you're doing it smart, like God showed me to really watch that, buy at the bottom and wait till it gets and sell at the top, and keep doing that consistently with low trading fees, you can do it. Eventually you will build up money. You'll start to build up money. And that's how he wanted me to do it. Not just put your money in and wait for it to shoot to the moon. He wanted me to use my brain and to use my discernment and the character development I've learned. That's how he wanted me to trade and make money on crypto. It could be stocks. You can apply this to anything. Any chart that you get familiar with and you watch long enough. I'm saying any chart of a good crypto, not one of these cheap little ones out there that nobody knows. Stay away from those things. Stick with the main ones. You can do this with Ethereum. Ethereum kind of does this, and it stays in a channel. Pretty much Ethereum goes up and down in a channel. I haven't seen this thing go to the moon at all, like Bitcoin. Or like XRP is supposed to. Ethereum, you might want to follow that one, maybe. That might be a good one to watch. But XRP is what I've been following lately. So I might expand that. Like I said, I might start following Ethereum. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm getting more ideas. Bitcoin, I'm not too interested in that. It just doesn't interest me because it's such a big one, and It's just a personal thing. I just don't have a lot of interest in that. I'm looking at probably Ethereum and XRP. I think Ethereum has higher trading fees though, so that might not be a good one to use. You got to check into that one. I do remember something about high trading fees on Ethereum. I think they call it, what do they call it? Gas fees or something like that. There's a name for it. I think that's what they use on crypto. So so stay away from anything that has a higher trading fee, which might be Ethereum. Okay, so XRP was very low. Anyway, so that was one dream. Okay, so I think I explained that one pretty well. How about this? I don't tell dreams that people send me uh, unless I ask them for permission and they give it to me, but I can still use a theme from their dream and talk about it because a lot of these dreams are common. So recently I had someone send me a dream with a lot of just evil stuff going on, like drug addicts and dogs barking and stuff like that, and just like a negative kind of environment. If you have dreams like that, it's God showing you your real actual environment. He's showing you from the spiritual perspective. These are all spiritual metaphors most of the time, even though you might see literal people on drugs or might be people in the family or whatever. He's showing you something about your environment, but there's a reason behind it. So you have to ask God, what is the reason he's showing you that? What does he want you to do about it? I know for a fact he doesn't want you to stay stuck in that, but sometimes there can be a process in you getting out of that. I used to think there was all these easy, quick answers. Jesus did say, seek first the kingdom of God and all things will be added to you. Yes, he did, but that doesn't mean the all things added is going to happen overnight. It's a process. We have processes of deliverance we have to go through, and it can take time to work out those things. It says in the Bible, work out your own salvation. Well, you got to work out a lot more than just your own salvation. You got to work out everything. And so if you're in a situation like that and there's a lot of evil things going on around you, by the way, I've had a lot of people send me dreams like that. It's not just one or two. It's been a lot in the last 10 and a half years I've been interpreting dreams through my website. A lot of people have had dreams like that. Every now and then I've had one in the past too. But I didn't grow up in a environment where there were people doing a lot of demonic things. I didn't have witchcraft going on. I didn't have that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean I didn't still have dreams about stuff going on. So I'm just saying, if you have dreams like that, the question you want to ask is, why is God showing you that? And the simplest starting point is he wants you to get out of that. He doesn't want you to spend your life like that. And he's also giving you like prophetic insight about what's going on around you. So you got to ask him for wisdom. You got to ask him for strategy. What does he want you to focus on? What does he want you to be doing with your life? And follow my whole series where I talked about how I found out my calling and purpose. Your calling and purpose are not the same. They're two different things. Don't get stuck at the level of your calling because you'll never get to your purpose. A calling can involve things like an anointing and a gift, or gifts and anointings, plural. Do not get stuck at that level. You have got to move on beyond that. The kingdom of God goes beyond gifts and anointings. Jesus could have got stuck at that. He would have never come and did what he would have never fulfilled his purpose if he stayed stuck in a gift or an anointing. He wasn't just here to heal people. He wasn't just here to give people prophetic words. He wasn't just here, to do those kind of things and teach in parables. He did those things, but that was not his purpose. His purpose was to come here and die on the cross to defeat the works of the devil and to give us a way of salvation and to give us a way so that we could become kings first, priests second in his kingdom, and learn how to become a king in this earth. By the way, I've had dreams showing me, in fact, a little over a year ago, I had a dream with a big envelope. And here's something to think about: a big envelope, and it had inside there a government ID, but it was a new one. I wasn't even sure was it, a state or federal government that sent me the ID. I didn't even know because it was all symbolic. And the back, you could see like through the little window, the address window. It was dark. It was sort of like a dark gray paper and big bold letters. And it wasn't until I was on the phone with my parent ministry, a guy from JMMI, and he started talking about being an eternal king, like King David was. And the first few apostles were, Jesus told them they would sit on thrones in eternity. And that means an eternal king. Well, that dream I had, the dream didn't say what it was, a government ID. and it was something unusual. I knew it was like a high level kind of thing, but it was something different. Something, it wasn't a driver's license, anything. It was just something different. I knew there was something different about it. And a month later, when I was on the phone with this guy from JMMI, he started talking about an eternal king immediately. That's the dream. That's what God is showing me. He's showing me that I had reached the point of becoming an eternal king. Um, and then other ones, I had dreams that were connected with it, where I was the first among other people, first. And in the Bible, it talks about the firstborn. And I didn't know what this meant until I went through the part 2 of the Empire of God book by Apostle Taylor, David E. Taylor. When I went through his book, The Empire of God, he talked about what it means to be a firstborn. And a firstborn is a divine emperor. And he goes through the history in the Bible and shows people that were divine emperors. Abraham, King David, Solomon, and others back then were given, Moses was given the position of a divine emperor. An emperor is higher than a king. And that's the point. In my dream, it showed me higher than all the rest, higher. And in the Bible, it talks about higher than the kings of the earth. And you gotta get his book, Empire of God, part 1 and 2, to get the whole teaching. There's no way I can explain all that in here. It's very big. And I had dreams about that. Didn't make sense. I couldn't figure out, what does it mean to be the first? I kept seeing this theme of being the first. And then I found out it's about being a firstborn, and a firstborn in the Bible speaks of being a divine emperor. With that, you get much more than just being a king. You get stuff that you can use here in this lifetime now. And so I've been asking God repeatedly, okay, what do I do with this? What do I do? How am I supposed to apply this? And what kind of results should I be seeing? I do have other dreams about taking down regional demonic principalities over regions, not just a city, but a whole region. I've had dreams about that. Which surprised me. I kept asking God for the supernatural ability to do that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm asking for this, but I just didn't think I was good enough. I thought, like, this is way into the future. And so, and I kind of doubted that he would even use me for something like that. But he started showing me this stuff, and it wasn't so obvious at first. I missed it. It took me, in some cases, a year and a half to figure out what the dreams meant. And I started connecting it with reality. And that's going to go on the Sons of God Rising. Remember, Sons of God Rising series. I think I'm only in episode 6 right now. That's a slow-moving series, but it's the follow-up to the Marvel Dream Revelations book that I did. That's on version 2.1 now, by the way. So that's the follow-up. That will become a new ebook also. It's sometime in the future. There's a lot of stuff I could put in there, but I have to go when I feel like I get the inspiration from God to write the next episode there, and just keep working on that. I kind of have to focus on certain themes and just stay with that. And then when God moves me to the next, I can go with that one. So anyway, but that's all that divine emperors and the Marvel abilities. That's going to be in the Sons of God Rising series, and what will become the follow-up book to Marvel Dream Revelations. All that. But okay, so I'm kind of hitting all different kinds of things here, high level stuff that I'm trying to tell you, because the point here is, okay, remember how when I stopped calling my website, the domain, I expired chrismichaels.com. I expired that because I didn't want my name being the primary focal point. I wanted the theme and the testimony that God gave me to write about. I wanted the message to be the focal point, not my name. And so it took me years to get to the point where I just made a simple switch from chrismichaels.com to supernatural-science.com. And I could have made that years ago. But it took a while before God gave me the push, like, okay, yes, that's the name to use, and now is the time to do it. And it's only been a year since I did that. So again, I wanted to focus on the message, not on me. So anything I'm saying here is you can also use this. You can do the same thing I've been doing, and you could consider yourself to be the most unlikely person, which is true of me. I never thought I was the right person for any of this at all. And I really thought that a lot of this was so far over my head. I didn't think God would use me for a lot of this. Well, he's been doing it. He's been showing me in dreams. And there's usually a time, a gap between what he shows you in a dream and the time that it takes to manifest the thing. There's usually a time gap in between, a timeline. And there's things you have to be doing in the process. It's usually character development. And you got to be led by the Spirit. What are you supposed to focus on? What does he want you to emphasize in your study or that kind of thing. And you got to use that. You got to use that time, because you can have something in a dream and it never happened because you're not doing the right things during that time to make it happen. So you got to know how to do the things God expects you to do, so that what He shows you in a dream will manifest in real life. And you got to do those things, and you got to be led by the Spirit. You got to know how to be led by the Spirit in order to make that happen, which is a huge topic for someone like me who was all intellectual only. I only believed what I saw with my eyes. To get to the point where I knew how to be led by the Spirit was very, very hard, extremely hard. But I know how to do that now. So, okay, let me just look over my notes. I want to see if there's any other dreams to talk about here. I've had a lot of really good ones lately. And just some other ones that are kind of like all different topics. And here's one. And this is one I haven't totally sorted out yet, but I saw one, a big 4-engine Air Force jet, kind of like, okay, think about, I think there's only 2 4-engine jets in production right now. And one is not even in production. It's the old Boeing 707 that the Air Force uses, but they upgraded it with the larger size, the big turbofan engines. And there's an Airbus. I forgot. I think it's the A350 Airbus is a 4-engine jet. I think it's that one. Well, there's the A380, also the big, huge jumbo jet that's bigger than a 747. So there's 3 jets that have 4 engines right now. With the one I saw looked more like the Boeing, like an upgraded modern version of the 707, which the Air Force uses as a KC-135, the tanker, the air refueling jet. It looked like that. It was gray and had purple stripes, different kind of like artistic purple stripes on it. Here my OBS is saying disconnecting and reconnecting. I really hope this is recording and not dropping my stuff, because otherwise we're going to have some things missing here from the broadcast. Hopefully that's not the case. Okay, so, but it does say recording. All right, so I'm going to continue on anyway. And so this is a big 4-engine jet. It was filled with electronic equipment, not passengers, not cargo, not refueling, none of that kind of stuff. It was filled with electronic equipment. And so I started thinking about that for a long time. It was like, wow, what is this? What does that mean? What is electronic equipment for? And I started thinking Air Force jets normally, they are, okay, if it's an Air Force jet full of electronics, usually it's intelligence, gathering electronic signals and transmitting signals. And okay, so disconnected, reconnecting. Wow, this thing, I just tried to do this live. I hope this is going to work out. Okay, receiving and transmitting electronic signals, which can be voice, words, okay, think of an internet, the stuff I do with my blog. But there can be more to it than that. Here's the thing. It can also be electronic warfare. If you know anything about the Air Force and electronic warfare, in a symbolic sense, electronic warfare means, in symbolic kingdom of God sense, it means defeating principalities that operate in the air. Okay, you know how in the Bible it talks about the prince of the power of the air. That means you're making war against the principalities that control what is being sent on false news, false media, all this kind of stuff. That is what this is about. And I had dreams in the past that that were also dealing with that. I don't know if you remember, I had a dream several years ago about 4 radio towers, big, huge radio towers. There was 2 smaller ones that were there, but in the back behind it, in this thick cloud layer, was 2 much taller ones up being built behind it. I could just barely see it through the clouds. And hang on a second. Okay. And those were new towers that were just being built. And I have the blog, it's still up there. But I found out later, at first I was kind of guessing a little about what it was about. And I don't know if I updated that blog until that I found out it was actually about making war in the airwaves, the second heavens, making war against demonic principalities to destroy their lies and all this false programming. And so that's what this was about. So this new jet now, I saw it parked on an airport, probably a military base, and it was newly revealed, newly publicized. This is a new jet, full electronic equipment, big jet. That means something big, and a jet like that usually has enough power to cover a large area, a large geographic area. And so I know that's what this is about. So God is giving me something new now. that is you're gonna see it pop up somehow here in the blog, but it's gonna be bigger than just. It's going to be something very big that's going to be used to defeat these high level principalities that are deceiving and lying to a lot of people through media and other ways. And again, this goes back to my testimony. The whole thing, where did the invention come from? Again, I talk about the invention. Where did it come from? It came from God, came from dreams, it came from the supernatural realm that most churches that all the ones I used to go to didn't believe in. And by the way, even the Pentecostal churches are very, very weak and supernatural. By the way, again, I talked about this. It's in my blogs. If you're stuck at the prophetic level, you're stuck at the level of immaturity. That is not sonship. That is not the kingdom of God. That is the church level. The church level is this little thing down here. The kingdom of God is all this up here. And the church is the addition to the kingdom. Church was only given to deal with the sin problem. That is not the kingdom of God. They're totally, I've written blogs about this. You got to check it out. If you're still stuck in that, you still think being a prophet is the biggest thing. Why do you think I don't emphasize that? Because it's the lowest level. If you stay stuck in that, you will never get to sonship. You will never operate a king. You'll never learn to operate it as a king, and you will never see the results. So, okay, the prophetic prophets getting on videos and telling all of the, so popular, very, very, very popular. Yeah, because most people are babies, and that's what they want, baby level stuff. They want whatever suits their convenience. And most of the time, those people, if you see their prophecies, they have no power to change what's going on in the world. They don't know how to. They don't even know what the kingdom of God is. They talk about it, but they don't know what it is. And almost none of them talk about sonship. If they do, they don't know what that is either. Sonship deals with God giving you the same powers that Elijah had, Joshua, Moses, Elisha, things like that. Power over the elements of creation, calling down fire, controlling the weather by speaking, making things move without speaking, becoming invisible, hyper jumping, instantly transporting like Philip did. Elijah could do stuff like that too, instantly transport from one place to those are marvel abilities. That is not a gift of being a prophet. That's not what a prophet, that's a sonship level. And very few prophets in the Old Testament ever reached sonship. Elijah did, Elisha did, Moses, Joshua, they reached sonship. But other ones, the minor prophets, they never reached it. You don't hear about Micah doing that. I don't know. Isaiah wrote a ton of stuff. I don't want to say whether he did or not. I don't know offhand right now. Ezekiel did. There were others, minor prophets. Not all the prophets reached sonship. They didn't all reach it. Very few did. King David did. And he went through a 20-year process, which I'm almost at the 20-year point now, which surprised the heck out of me because I had dreams showing me where I was, but I had to study and it took years to figure out what the dream meant. And I went back and I could go back to the point where I was at the, when I first came, when I first got connected to JMMI in February, 11 years ago, basically God was showing me I was at the baby level. Or maybe maybe in the child level, maybe. And it wasn't until I think 2018, I think it was about 2018, that he showed me that I had now entered the sonship stage of development, which meant if you go by Hebrew, the biblical understanding of development, okay, what is a bar mitzvah is when a boy reaches age 13. That is when he transitions from being a child and starts learning, developing to becoming a man. Ultimately, he becomes a man technically at age 18. You're supposed to be considered a man at 18, but you start at age 13. 18 to 20, you become a man. But you start at age 13. In 2018, I had reached the spiritual level of beginning that 13-year process. And I've been very diligently focused on it ever since. Why? Because God wouldn't let me have a job. If I did, I would have been so distracted, I would never have been able to focus exclusively and intensively on development so that I would reach full maturity at the 20-year point. You can be 20 years in a church and still be a baby the whole time. That's what most church people are. They're babies. And if you know what a baby looks like and you know how they talk and how they act, you can pick up like that. You know exactly where they are. If you study this kind of thing like I've been talking about, if you study that, you'll know exactly where people are when they open their mouth. 5 seconds, you can figure out their level of maturity. Most of them are babies and some are at the child level, but they're stuck. And you have to know what these stages are. You have to know that. Okay, so I found out around 2018, I had reached the bar mitzvah point, of the 13 of a 13-year-old spiritually. And how many years has it been since 2018? Well, that's about 8 more years now. Basically, I've effectively reached around the 20-year point right now. And at 20 years, it has to be confirmed. It has to be confirmed, but I'm waiting for that confirmation. When I finally reach that 20-year point, I will have reached full sonship. Sonship means you can operate in marvel abilities like Elijah, Elisha, Moses, Joshua, all them at will. You don't have to pray and ask God. No, at will, you can do these things. You can turn invisible at will. You can instantly transport at will. I've had all kinds of dreams about this. Power with lightning. I've had a lot of dreams about power with lightning. You can do that at will when you reach that point. And by the way, I also wrote this in one of my Supernatural Entrepreneur episodes that when you reach that point, you get a brain resurrection. And that means you get back your full brain's potential, which connects with the supernatural, which gives you the ability to do these things at will. So when Jesus turned water into wine, because he had reached full sonship himself, and he could do that not by praying, not by speaking, by thinking. And if you can do something by thought without praying, without opening your mouth, that's proof that you're at sonship. If you cannot do that, then you don't have sonship. You're not there. So those are tests. You have to be able to, if someone can demonstrate that, they've reached that. So I'm waiting for the point, and I'm just around the 20-year point, finally at this point right now, which I'll tell you what, that also surprised the heck out of me, because I tell you, I didn't think I was qualified for any of these things, but you go through the process and you go through enough very horrible experiences, very negative circumstances, that's part of the process, then that's how you get promoted. And glory comes by persecution, by suffering. All that it talks about in the Bible, New Testament, how light affliction, it says light affliction. It doesn't seem light at the time, but that's what produces glory. And the marvel powers are glory manifestations. And you hear all these people, even prophets, constantly, they come on Sidroth, constantly talking about the glory, the glory of God and all this. And I tell you, not one of them can tell you what that actually is. And they're not going to get it, because they don't know what it is. They're not following the right stuff. They're still at the prophetic baby level, baby and child level down here. That is not glory. That is not sonship. That is not the kingdom of God. They're never going to get there. Okay. All right. So let me see. Is there any other dreams I want to talk about? I kind of just scrolling through here, looking for something interesting, something that really just stands out. Yeah, I had a lot of dreams about finally getting all the stuff I've been waiting for how many years now? And it's getting ready to happen. Okay, so I'm probably at the point where I'm going to kind of shut this off now pretty soon, because I want to do this more often. I don't want to make a big deal about it. I don't want to overthink it. I don't want to have this big script of things I got to talk about, because then I'm going to do is overthink it. I'm going to make too much of a big deal in my mind, and nothing will ever happen. That's happened to me before. So I think this is a pretty good stopping point. You can only handle so much too. So I got to know when my audience has kind of reached the point where they've had enough. And I don't know how long I've been on here. Actually, I do know. I see a little counter, 48 minutes and 30 seconds. So this is a good stopping point. Again, this is just me experimenting with the live thing. I don't think anyone's going to be watching me live. According to this, there are no current followers watching right now. And I didn't really expect that. I want to go back to my little YouTube studio thing here and see what it says if I do a refresh on this. Is there any? Yeah, there's no. Well, it doesn't tell me how many people are on there. Anyway, okay, I'm going to go back and check this, see if there's any gaps in there. Hopefully it did save separately. If I have to re-upload this, I'll try to listen and see how it came out. But expect for me to do this more often. Like 2 years ago, I was doing live video calls, and I only had like 3 people jump on that. And one of them really went on and on and on to say how she really thought I needed to be doing this once a week. Well, I tried once a week back then. I couldn't, it just fell flat. It just got to a point where I just couldn't do it. I'm more of a writer than a speaker, but that doesn't mean I don't want to come out and speak. I do like to. And I keep saying I'm going to try to do this more often, and I'm going to get back to podcasting and all that stuff. And I try really hard, and it just seems like stuff is constantly coming up to block me off and shut me down. It can be circumstances, it can be people putting pressure on me because we still don't have our stuff. We're still stuck in an environment that we have to rely on everyone for everything. And that can make it very hard. In the midst of that, we're still supposed to fight through that and make things happen either way. So, okay, second video. And when was the last one? within the last week. That's 2 now. Hopefully I can continue this. So let's see what happens. And I will try really hard to come back and try not to overthink like the background scenery here. This is an AI scenery that I use for my Supernatural Entrepreneur series. Try not to overthink that. There's so many ways I can get stuck in stuff and just never do it. So take what I'm saying, apply it to you. Again, I give my testimony for a reason. It's so you can grab onto this and apply the parts for to those things for yourself too. So thank you for supporting. Also, donations are great. Hardly ever get them, but they're very helpful. And remember that when you give to a prophet, you receive supernaturally from God. And I haven't talked about this much, but I do have a bunch of dreams about having a calling as a prophet. It just hasn't been totally come out and validated yet, but I have a lot of dreams about that. So I don't talk about it much at all. I don't talk about that much because I'm waiting for like a second, third party validation there, especially from my parent ministry. But I just haven't had that. But I have dreams about it. So telling you what I've seen in dreams. Anyway, when you give to someone like that with that calling, you are going to receive you're going to receive supernaturally. And I did have people give $1,000 offerings. It's been a while, and they did get different kinds of noticeable results, either in their own, like God rewarded them. He started to show them what He was going to do for them because of what they gave. And there's been other people that have now been seeing people, like say, for instance, people that have provided things we needed. One in particular has been getting some surprise financial rewards, surprisingly large financial rewards. It took 1.5 years, but they started getting them. And I don't give details publicly about any of that stuff, but I will say that people have been getting rewarded financially for giving and providing things that we needed. And it's been very surprising, but they had to wait a while. So I'm just saying it's biblical. I have blogs about this kind of stuff. So anyway, for those of you who have been donating and supporting, and it has to cost you something. It has to be significant. Again, I don't have a nonprofit. God's never told me to do a nonprofit, none of that stuff. So you're just giving to me as a person. And but that's, in the Bible, nobody cared about that stuff. All this tax nonsense that Trump is doing a great job of, and other people like the guy, the governor in Florida, they've been bringing up, they want to end all this excess taxation, which, by the way, the Tea Party 250 years ago, that's what started this, pushed us off to declaring independence and fighting the Revolutionary War to get England off our back because they were killing us with their excess taxation. Remember the Tea Party throwing the tea into the water, saying, we're not paying your taxes, we're not obeying you anymore. We're going to fight our War of Independence and break free of you. And guess where we are now? Back where we started, with excess taxation and excess illegal and out of control government agencies like, what did I say last time? The FBI. Hello. All kinds of illegal, excessive, very authoritarian, authority in the biblical sense. God is a God of order. Franklin Graham said something about that. When you see Trump enforcing things here, like immigration, no, that's order. God is a God of order. So there are laws that must be enforced and haven't been. God is not a God of chaos. He is a God of order. And Israel had to have a wall around it. It had to. Hello. Okay, so that's kingdom protocols. But there's all this excess fraud and all this nonsense going on that's being exposed. And so anyway, how I got off on that had nothing to do with my topic. But anyway, we can talk about that some other time. It is a topic. I am dealing with current events now. I'm following them because God showed me something about my future. I'm not going to talk about it here. That goes way beyond just being a massive, big global tech inventor. It goes way beyond that. So I'm just going to drop that hint and leave it right there. So anyway, back to thank you for supporting. Donations is very helpful and has been very necessary lately. Until we get this big, huge thing, which I saw in dreams, I'm getting what I've been waiting for. We are going to get what we've been waiting for big time. Until that happens, thank you for donating, because what you give, God is going to give you back big time. Even if you have to wait for it a while, He's going to give it back to you. It will happen. But you got to stay in the process. You've got to stay in the process, like I've been talking about here. If you don't stay in the process, you're gonna sow seed in the ground through donations. It's just gonna die. Or remember that Jesus told the parable about the good soil, the rocky soil with the weeds that sprang up and just killed everything. You've got to be that fourth soil. And I had a dream about having that fourth soil myself a few years ago. It was a really good one, and I think I put it in the 50 Plus Common Dreams book. So get that one, get that book, or the audio version, or the paperback, or the digital ebook version. Get that. It's in there, and I'm going to talk about some of these in the Supernatural Entrepreneur Series also when I get to that. So again, thank you for watching. We are 55 minutes now. Good. Okay, good number, by the way. And I'll come back as soon as I can, and we'll talk again. So send me your emails, send me dreams, send me questions on supernatural mentoring. I do that too. It's not just dream interpreting. I can do a lot of supernatural mentoring, a lot. I've learned a lot in these last how many years now. So again, thank you very much, and thank you for your support.